Welcome to the Journey to Joy podcast. And today I have a special guest with me, Adam Frugoli, who I know from high school. So this is really special and fun for me to get to introduce him to you and get to know him because we haven't connected for a lot of years. How long have we been out of high school? Like 25 or 8 years or so? It's been a little while.
It's been a long time. It's hard to believe.
Been a
It feels
while.
like yesterday, though, Lisa. That's the great thing
I
about
know.
it. It's just every time I see you, it just feels like I don't know, you're one of those friends that it just feels like yesterday. It's so good to see you,
Yeah.
though.
It does. I know. It's so fun too. So I saw Adam connected on social media. So that's the joyful part about social media. And I just remembered some years back, and he'll tell the story, but some years back, he told a story about something that happened in high school. And I was shocked and floored because I had no idea. And I was so self-concerned at the time that I also had no idea that he had dropped out of school. And I thought now as an adult, I'm like, what a terrible friend. But, you know, we're all in high school and that's the way things roll sometimes. But it's such an amazing story and there's so many great lessons inside of it. So I really was asking him to come on the Journey to Joy podcast today so he could share that story with you. And then we can have some awesome discussion around it and what his journey to joy has looked like because his life could have been completely different. I say that very accentually, completely different than what it is today. He could have been completely derailed by what happened to him, and he wasn't. And he took it a different direction. And so I really want, especially the youth out there, to be able to hear this, youth and adults, because we all face this, to hear his story. So welcome, Adam.
Lisa, thank you.
Yes.
So good to
So
see
tell
you.
us, so good to see you too. I know. So tell us a little bit about you and then we'll get into your story.
Well, originally from the great metropolis of Pocatello, Idaho,
Yeah.
born and bred, uh, raised by a single mother and only child, and raised by a single mother who worked hard but also suffered from a lot of emotional and mental issues from herself, and um, just life was hard. Life was really difficult in those days. But when you're growing up in it, you didn't really know how difficult it was until you're
Yeah.
outside of it and you're looking back. It almost kind of feels like it was a different life that I led.
Yeah.
That I was just kind of looking back on and just wondering how we did it ourselves. I often joke about it with my children and say, that they couldn't survive the best day of my childhood, and I really think that that's the case. But my mother had a lot of emotional issues herself and had been dealt a lot of bad hands that I didn't really understand until after she passed away. But it was a struggle just to survive. I mean, there are many. It's getting cold now. There's many times where we just didn't have uh, gas in our furnace to heat our little apartment, and sometimes we just wouldn't have heat, and we'd have run extension cords, and we didn't have a telephone for many years. And those kind of things that you just take for normal, granted. That
Mm-hmm.
we had, but I'm grateful for the challenges that I've had because it's helped me become the individual that I am, and it's helped me be able to rise up above anything, and hopefully be able to inspire individuals that they may be able to understand that we're not locked in by our circumstances, and there is no success fairy that comes down and says, "Hey, Lisa,
Yes.
here's the success fairy for you. You get to be successful because the fairy said so." That doesn't
Yeah.
exist. That we can choose if we want to get all the blessings and all the success that we want out of life if we choose to. And so
Yes.
that's kind of my upbringing.
And I just, before you keep going, what I remember of you, right? We have our childhood memories is you were happy.
Hmm.
Like you were, I know, and you're probably like, I probably didn't feel happy. I don't know. But you, as like my memories of you were like, you were the happy person in the hallway. You weren't like, I never looked at you like there was something wrong or like you were sad or like, I mean, anything growing up. And so it's just really interesting to hear you explain how you grew up and the challenges that you had. And I can imagine now as an adult what that would have been like and how hard it would have been to just go to school and, you know, keep moving forward as a child without all the comforts in the home that you are now providing for your children.
Yeah, that's interesting that you remember it that way. I mean, I remember you being somewhere the same. I mean, we're all,
And I was
I think
always depressed.
we
Yeah.
always had this mask on, and I see individuals that we
Yeah.
went to high school with, and you'd see these individuals, and you just think, man, they've got everything put together.
Yeah.
They've got it all figured out. And then as I
Oh,
get to know them a little bit and we have a chance to sit down and talk, and no one had it figured out. We thought everybody did. Everybody was doing better than I was doing, or vice versa. No one had it figured out. We're
no.
just
That's
all
funny that
kind
you
of
say
just
that.
right. We're
It's
just
funny
all
that you
trying
say
to
that
figure
about
it
me
out.
too. I know, right? Because I felt like I was like always sad, like sad. Like I felt like I was like a sad kid or something. I used to think that about myself. Like, was I always depressed? Is this just who I was? So it's just interesting how people see you from the outside looking in when on the inside we can feel like garbage sometimes. So
Yeah,
nobody knows
and
the struggles.
I think that's a main thing. And there hasn't been a lot of discussion when we were growing up about what anxiety meant, or
Yeah.
what mental health really looked like. It was just something that you
No.
just never shared very much of, and we just all went around with masks on, trying to make our way through the world now. And so I am grateful
Yeah.
that there's a lot more emphasis on people's mental health and their well-being.
Yes. Yes. Bringing that to light. Okay. So you want to start in on the story? Well, and
Okay,
so you're a father of how many kids do you have? Three?
two kids. We have two
Two
daughters.
kids. Okay.
Um, and one that's 21 and one that is 22, I think. I
Okay.
don't know, 240 months, as if they were infants,
I
but they're
know.
not.
I know.
Yeah, amazing kids. We're so grateful. And and then I've been married for, will be 25 years in December 7th, and so that's been an interesting journey in itself, and trying to design this life on that that I had no relevant understanding of how to
Yeah.
create a life. And it's nice to hear my children say, hey, like, we enjoyed our childhood, because sometimes when you're in it, you're like, oh man, how many times did I make a mistake? Or I hope
I
I don't
know.
screw these kids up, because I have nobody
Yes.
to bounce ideas off of. And I'm basically YouTubing it all, trying to figure
Yeah.
out how to respond. So that's been a nice thing about being a father, is looking at my children and seeing that they're thriving and they're doing good. And I think that's ultimately what we want for our children, is to do better than what we did. And
Yes.
so kids are doing well, and my wife is doing well, and business is good.
Professionally?
So
I was going to say, tell everybody what you do professionally.
yeah, so I'm a partner in one of the largest insurance brokerages, privately owned insurance brokerages in the United States. I'm one of the owners, one of many owners, but one of a few select owners that are in this group, that we own about 300 agencies across the United States. And I, on a day-to-day basis, work with healthcare. So I work with hospitals and about 7,000 doctors across the United States, and do all their risk management. When things go wrong, they call me, um, making sure that they're protected and that there's no assets that are unprotected. And then I manage several insurance companies on top of that, that have different um, specialized needs as well. So I have a group of individuals that I'm so fortunate to work with, that help make me look good, because it takes a team of people to help me look good
Yeah.
in what I do. It's just so I'm everywhere, and so it's just kind of like one of those things that they keep all the balls up in the air without me missing one. So I'm so grateful for those individuals and my wife who just make sure that things are running smoothly for me. And I work about, on average, probably about 6 to 7 days a week. And 80, 90 hours is typically what we usually throw down on a weekly schedule. And so, there's a lot of work involved.
A lot of work involved. Yeah, that's a lot of responsibility. What's your higher education? Did you have any higher education?
Zero.
Zero. Okay. That's what I thought, but I just want to make sure. And not just that, you dropped out of high school in your junior year. Was it junior year?
Yep.
Okay. This is the part that blew my mind because I was like, what? How did I not know you disappeared? It's because I was self-absorbed, getting engaged, all the things when I was in high school. Okay. So let's go there. Let's talk about that.
Well, it was just, I guess I would say my higher education is really just life. I've got a PhD in life from the very beginning of it, and it was an interesting time. I mean, we had individuals that teachers that would be, we had career day, not unlikely. I've been at a few career days and spoke at a few of them, and came down to the point in time of, I remember they brought in a state trooper. Well, how much money do you make? State trooper would say, I think it was like $37,000. And then, well, what does the teacher make? Teacher made about $27,000. And this is like 1996 money. And then, they bring in the professor from the university and they give him that. And then I think we had a doctor, an emergency room doctor that came in. And at that point in time, we were in survival mode in my own home. At that point in time, I was responsible to help pay for the bills that we were working on. Now, I would love to have had the luxury of being able to go out and explore what my career options would be and spend a few years up at the university and kicking around with a hacky sack and just trying to figure out what freaking life meant. But I didn't have that luxury. Rent was due in the beginning of the month, very literally. And there were times when we didn't have enough money for rent. There were times when I was younger that my mother didn't have enough money and we would move in the middle of the night and try to find places. There were times when the landlord, one time in particular, that the landlord came over and propositioned my mother that if he would have sex with, if she were to have sex with him, we could stay for another 6 weeks. That's the kind of stuff. And so, I listen to my kids and I hear them talk about what their issues are and all that. And I think, you know what? No one cares about your problems. That's our mantra. Is when things are hard, everybody's dealing with their own stuff. And so we've got to become our own superheroes. And so it became a time when I had this teacher, and I don't even remember her name. I've had a couple of them, but basically we had that. And at that point in time, I was the cellular technology was really new. I mean, it'd be about the size of a brick, and
I know
did these huge things that we were lugging around, and it was a new technology. And I was going off at the lunchtime and cutting different classes, going out and selling these cell phones. I found a guy that had a contract and he would split the commissions with me, and I would go out and I would sell cell phones at lunchtime, or if there was a dumb class, and by the way, they were all dumb. There's not anything that I missed out on. The only thing that I got out of any of that whole entire experience is how to type. I can type like none other.
Oh, right. We had a good typing teacher, though. I can type like a rock star, too.
Oh, yeah. ASD. Yeah. Like I'm amazing at typing. And so, I'd go out and do that. And so, there were times when I was making $3,000 to $4,000 a month at lunchtime. And, this teacher was just on me. I mean, she was just not a great teacher. Further on, I mean, when I helped found founded our high school in Idaho Falls. That's another story, but made it very clear to the principal that we were not to hire teachers like that. But she just
Yeah.
basically said, you're never going to amount to anything. And I asked her, I was like, how much money do you make? And she told me, and I was like, yeah, I don't think this is going to work out anymore. And so we made a mutual decision between me and the administration that it was probably time for me to pursue my educational goals somewhere else. And so I left. And I didn't look backwards. And I took that knowledge and went and perfected my skills in being able to sell and to market and to looking at different things. So, for example, the company that I was selling their products for, they hired me full time, and that led me to a really good job to where at that point in time, you were really well compensated on this new technology, and I was able to take care of a lot of different needs and a lot of different wants that I had never been able to. And at that point in time, probably about 3 years afterwards, it was about everybody was, well, it was around graduation time, I imagine. People were graduating. I really wanted to be a financial advisor. Only companies that were hiring at that time were people at Merrill Lynch and prestigious firms like Morgan Stanley. I don't necessarily think that they were going to be, they were looking for interns that were coming out from, large universities like Stanford, and you had to really intern well in order to get picked up by one of these investment firms. And so my mantra has been basically, in a sense, is like, no one's going to build you a table to come and have a seat at. So you got to go build a chair and bring it up to the table, because no one's going to do it for you. And I decided that I wanted to be a financial advisor. So I found a company that would sponsor me for my testing. I paid for all my tests and got my Series 7 and 65, and became a stockbroker at the age of 19, I want to say, 19 or so. And
how old were you when you dropped out of school?
16 or 17, 16? I think.
Okay.
Maybe 17. I don't remember on that. It's kind of a blur, but I think I was probably 17, maybe just barely 17.
Okay.
And school was always rough for me anyway. I didn't conform well. I was always considered a distraction and disruptive. And ironically, what's on my Tesla Model S right now is disruptor. That's on my license plate. And so I was like, well, that's what I do.
Because being the outlier, that's interesting that you say that too, because one of the things that I was working through is feeling like you are not included,
Yeah.
and that comes from such a young age, but yet when you're so different in a good way, you are the outlier, you are the disruptor, you are the outlier to what everybody else thinks is just normal.
But the system portrays you, because you don't fit in this box, as not a good thing.
As that it's not a good thing. Yes.
It's not a good thing, and that's how they portray it to you, and that's really, really unfortunate. And I hope that your guests get that out of my talk. But that's really the thing is if you don't fit the modern box that you're supposed to put in, that you're supposed to be in, and you're outside of that mold, you're automatically an outlier, and it's painted as a bad way.
Well, and the hard part with that is it's not just that you don't conform, but it's that you start to believe there's something wrong with you. Like
Sure.
so many children, you believe that there's something wrong with you, instead of like what you did, right? You just build your own table and pull up your own chair to your own table. If you don't fit inside somebody else's box, go create your own box. And I think the youth of today are so much better at doing that than our generation was. But now what I see is our generation trying to stop the youth because they're scared. There's so much fear involved in watching the younger generations create their own boxes. because it's so far outside of the comfort zone of the older generations that they, aren't positively looking at what it is that the kids are doing. I think it's great. I think it's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so got my investment licenses, and because I had my licenses, I was able to pick up a job at U.S. Bancorp Investments
Yep.
and started investing people's money and creating financial plans and really getting in towards the financial services, and that's what kind of propelled me into the insurance business. In 2001, that's what I ended up in full time. I went through 9/11 and all these different events that made me realize that I didn't really want to be a financial advisor because there were so many things that were outside of my control that I just couldn't control. Like, I used to tell people that uh, a cold day in hell would have to happen if General Motors skipped out on a bond payment, but yet here they, during the Great Recession, they
Yeah.
were forced into bankruptcy and eliminated, most of their bonds, and people lost money. And I felt really bad about that. Even though that was something that I couldn't control, I felt responsible for that. And I wanted to get into a business that had some residual income, but also had some guarantees as well. And I just felt terrible about people losing money. And so that's what really kind of propelled me into the insurance investments, is getting outside the investments and working towards into the insurance business. And so that's what's kind of led me to this point in time. And, it really is just in a sense of, um, you know, deciding what you want and moving forward. I knew that I didn't want, well, listen, they'll say that money doesn't make you happy. I beg to differ. I've not had money before, and I was not very happy. And I've had a little bit of money, and I'm a lot happier than I ever was before. Now, what that money allows me to do is to do different things for people that I would never be able to. For example, I uh, helped was one of the founding members of Idaho's first technical high school. That was a great thing. I've been able to do other things and help individuals in their political campaigns by donating money, and my children all have college degrees now, and so there's different aspects to success that I really like, versus being an object versus an agent, and being able to you know be reliant on other people. I like being self-reliant. So,
Yeah. I
that's
think
kind of the
that's amazing.
story.
Well, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think there's such a bad. I talk about money all the time. So if people have ever listened to my other my real estate podcast, Intentional Real Estate Success, I talk about money often. I talk about how much money I've made. I talk about how much money I spend. I
Yeah.
talk about the vacations I go on and what those cost and the shoes that I buy. Money is something that I discuss and talk about all the time. I think what's important to point out is while that's not the source of happiness, it is really difficult, especially like when you're growing up, right? If our needs aren't met, it is harder for us to thrive. Like you have to have your needs met, and
Sure.
needs met, like the power being on and the food being on the table and the gas in the car. And I mean, those things are really important. And there are so many people who don't have that luxury, and can feel and be a luxury. It was a luxury to you when you were a kid. And if you don't have that, it makes the upbringing and your security, it threatens a security for you. And so that's hard. That's really hard.
Yeah, I mean, it is hard. In fact, I remember one time I was on a recognition trip in the British Virgin Islands, and I'm looking at Facebook, and all of a sudden I see the exact island I'm looking at from another island in the British Virgin Islands, and it happens to be Lisa on the other island. Like, it
What?
was the craziest thing in the world. Like, we were two kids from Pocatello
The British
on
Virgin
different
Islands.
islands in the British Virgin Islands that are like 10 miles
Yeah.
apart or 5 miles apart, some weird
Right.
difference. That was
That,
wild.
by the way, both didn't go, like you dropped out of high school and didn't go to college. I hit one semester of college and that was it for me. I dropped out of college
Yeah.
and I never, but yet I can make $1 million a year. And I didn't go to college. Like it's what your dream is, right? And what your goal is and what you're moving toward and what your desire is and your passion is. Like you had that desire and passion and you moved toward it and you didn't need everybody else to tell you it was okay to do. Or you also didn't need everybody else to tell you that it was not okay to do. Like you
Yeah.
did it regardless.
You have to, at some point in time in your life, you have to stop caring what other people think. And you can't keep living in other people's dogma. Um,
Yeah.
as worn out as that is, and sometimes that's really, really uncomfortable. But for me, it really hasn't been, because I've been an outlier and been out a lone wolf for so long. It's been of a challenge. Now there's challenges that come with that because it
Yeah.
becomes a little bit lonely. It becomes a little bit lonely, that and the group of friends that you have is a really small circle, uh, with individuals that are a little bit like-minded. But for a long time, I mean, I've been married for 25 years. It's just kind of like, you know, I'm not the easiest person to live with either. And so it becomes living with me is not easy. And so I have to give a lot of props to my wife as well, because, when you come from a family like I do, everything was based on, if you do this, I will give you love. And if you
Right.
don't do this, then it's very transactional. And so when you go through life, always just thinking about trying to get some recognition, and you don't really have a feeling of knowing what it feels like to be unconditionally loved. And so
Which,
that's always been a challenge for me.
yeah. So it's hard for you to let in, is what I'm hearing. Like it's because you have a very loving wife, but then there's like, again, that mask or that barrier. It kind of stops you from fully feeling and absorbing all the love that somebody does want to give you when you're not quite sure how to receive it because it's not what you've experienced before.
Yeah, it's super challenging, and it's stuff that we've had to work through over the years to do that, because when you don't really know what unconditional love looks like, how do you know what that feels like? I mean,
Yeah.
and that's been a challenge. And so but you also need that to be successful too, internally. You need to have that support.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Okay. So you've become successful in your own right. And then you landed yourself on was it 40 under 40 list?
Yeah, I was distinguished under 40.
Distinguished
This
under 40. Okay.
Yeah, that was a while ago, it feels like these days. But yeah, okay, this is a story. Yeah, and this will show your audience of how petty of a man I really am. But
I mean, I was like, yes, go. Because I would do the same thing. So I love it.
I sent that
Uh,
teacher, when I received, and I've this teacher's probably just sick and tired of me just rubbing her nose in the middle of this. But every time something major would happen, I would send her the paper clipping of it, or the magazine, or anything that was significant. And I was just say, well, looks like you shouldn't give up on people that quickly. I hope you've changed. And this time I was able to send back to the good old friends at Franklin Middle School the picture of me distinguished under 40, and of the magazine article, and I sent it right to her. I sent them. In fact, I think I said about 50 different copies of it for everybody in the entire school. And it's kind of petty and small, but it was kind of like my little time at that moment to be like, yeah, I want you to know I'm still out here, and I want you to know that I still remember every single thing you've said, and I want you to know even more that it drives me every day to prove you wrong. Now, I don't need to prove anybody wrong these days, but it still drives me. And someday I'll probably get over that and feel more at peace. But I still hear those voices in the back of my mind. Um,
I can help you with that, but yes.
okay, yeah, I'm sure
Yes.
you
Yeah.
could.
That's a
It's
whole other
probably clinical
conversation.
by now. We probably need a whole team of people, or uh,
Nah. One hour with Lisa. I
uh,
got you. 1 hour with
yeah,
Lisa. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, that's that. I mean, probably a year or two ago, I was named as the broker of the year. Um, by Insurance Journal magazine, and that was a big accomplishment, because here I am in little Idaho Falls, Idaho, population 70 something thousand people, and we're competing with individuals that are in Miami or LA or New York, places like that, and to have that recognition, that was really important to me. And again, another magazine article, and so I sent a fair amount of those to a few of my detractors, and I never got any replies back. I know they got them because they didn't get sent back, but
Yeah.
I know they're watching.
Yeah. Well, so, okay. So, hey, congratulations. I mean, I think that's
Yeah,
just so absolutely amazing. And what I loved about the parts I didn't know, and just the fact that, they essentially told you, like, you're worthless, like, you're not going to amount to anything. Right. And so and I remember, I honestly remember I had taken my child, my son, we started doing counseling when things were going terribly wrong in the home. And so then he and I had been going to counseling. And I remember the counselor saying, I just don't know if it's going to, like, if he's going to end up amounting to anything. He said something
Ugh.
similar to that. I was like, what? Like, who the heck are you? And I was like, peace out, dude. You are not the counselor for
Yeah,
us, right?
yeah,
He's an amazing kid. Like, fast forward, he's an amazing kid. Put himself to college, took care of all like, had his dream, has a job. Like, he's going to be an amazing husband. He's doing coaching. Like, he is so smart. And I thought, yeah, here's this one person that has such a small vision.
yeah,
And here's the part that we have to recognize. They have a small vision for themselves. They cannot see beyond what they can see for themselves. So we're stuck at our own levels. And so
yeah.
when you have somebody try to hand you, well, you're not going to amount to anything. Well, internally, that's a huge belief that they have in themselves, and they just project it out on you. But the way that we do that with people, we don't realize the ripple effect that we have. Now, this was a positive ripple effect in a way where it's like, well, you went on and you created your own success. And how much more amazing would it be if it would have been fostered and created the success from a healthy place and an encouraging place and not from an unkind place? Because I think what you're saying is, if I'm right, it's like it drives you, but there's a little bit of negative energy that actually drives the achievement piece
So
because you're like, I got to prove them wrong. I got to prove them wrong. I got to prove them wrong. But at some point, like, we got to know, yeah, like, they were wrong for them,
yeah,
and it didn't have anything to do with you. But unfortunately, we're so impressionable when we're forming, right, and when we're emotionally developing, that it means so much to us. It means so much to us.
it does, and that's where I use the motto all the time. You've got to be your own superhero. Um,
Yeah, I love that. Hmm.
no one came for me. Now I was able to find some great mentors that did take some time for me and did show me some things, and so a lot of I didn't do this on my own. I had people that were able to help me that God put in my path that I was able to take their knowledge and take their kindness. But we have to be very, very careful about who we're taking advice from. If you've got that adult figure or that counselor or that person with that title above you that's telling you this, it can certainly crush somebody. And
Yes.
I think that's what we have to be really, really weary about who we let into our circle. I'm very careful about who I put in my circle. Like, listen, I'm one of the best friends that you could ever have, but I'm very guarded on who I put into that because right now the only thing that I want to do is accomplish these goals here, and I want people that are like-minded about that in my
Yeah.
circle as well. That we're driving each other and making each other better, but nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's coming to rescue you. You got to go out and just do this. And the
Yeah.
tools are out there, but the most important thing is you got to believe in yourself, and that's what we find as an epidemic in this country is people do not have a belief in themselves because they've been beaten down and squashed so much by real world issues or teachers or parents or you name it that
Yep.
create this vision in your mind, and it's tough to break out of it. And that's why I
It
say
is.
you have to really be your own superhero, and you have to just manifest what you want to happen and make it your will.
Yeah, I love that. What does it mean? like your journey. I know, and that was, the beginning of your story, and you've had a lot more of your story. Like we're 45 now, so it's been a little while since we've been in high school. I love that because we never look at the beginning, and then this also essentially speaks to the youth as well. But even to the 45-year-old that wants to break out of the job that they're in or do something different, but yet we live in fear of making change and taking those bold moves and doing something different for our lives. Like essentially being your own superhero, right? Like you're going to take the reins, you're going to go off and you're going to just choose to do the thing. How much, looking back now, do you feel like you had trust in you?
I had no opportunity to fail. There was no room for failure. Failure was not an option at any point in time. I got married at the age of 21 years old, and I became a father at 22, which was difficult for me because I never had a father. And then we had Caitlin when I was 18 months after that. So I think I was 24. And at that point in time, my wife left her job at the state, and it was stable income. And she just kind of said, this is on you. I need to stay home. And that was what she needed to do. And frankly, for the financials of it, her job didn't pay enough money to pay for daycare for 2 kids. So it was my turn to provide. And here it is. I had zero tools to go out and do that. So the only thing that I could do is go out there and make it happen. And so I knew that these 3 individuals were home waiting for me, and we had no backup plan. They said, like, there was no room for error. If the car broke down, that was catastrophic. And so you had to figure out a way to make it work. And then it just became one of those point in times is like, okay, what do we want? What do I envision for my children's life to be? What do I envision for my life to be? So if you're paralyzed by fear of making a change, you have got to bet on yourself. Now, that doesn't mean go out and do stupid things and quit your job the next day and, just
move to Hawaii.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say that, but abandon everything that you have. I mean, but it's called about making smart choices. Maybe quitting your job today isn't an option for you, but maybe you could start grinding a little bit more in the evening. Maybe you could take that extra job as an entrepreneur and do something in the evening. I think we're so caught up on the work-life balance stuff that, oh yeah, I can't do that because my job just drains me during the day. It comes down to the point in time is how bad do you want it?
Yeah. Well,
How
you said
bad do you
something
want it?
interesting too, and this plays back to like when you very first started. You found tools and you found resources and you found mentors. Like there's a way, and the teachers couldn't see the way, but you found the way and you kept looking and reaching until you found the things that you needed. You looked and reached until you found the resources, till you found the tools that you needed, till you found the mentors to teach you, until you found the way in. Like it was that relentless pursuit because for you, like it was driven by there's no other option, right? But what I would hope that people hear is we also don't have to wait, like for myself and for you, right? Like you were pushed to do it. I was pushed to move into divorce and really change my life up the way that I have. That was like, we get to a point where like you have no other option, right?
Yeah.
And what I want people to learn is you don't have to wait. Like listen at the whisper level and make choices and do something different at the whisper level so that you don't have to wait until everything has to blow up in order for you to make a change, to do something different, to move. You can achieve from being aligned and from positive energy, but we don't have to move through and make choices based on like the catastrophic, right?
Yeah.
You were ahead of it. And I know as a child you didn't have that option, but you kind of still did. I mean, you were still learning that you were getting out ahead of it. Like we knew we had to pay the rent. So now I'm going to go find a guy that sells cell phones and bootleg and sell cell phones out of the trunk of your car. Like, I mean, that's just $3,000 to $4,000 a month, especially back in 1997, is a freaking lot of money. That was a lot of money. Yeah, that's amazing. Some people are barely making that now.
Well, let's just take. I mean, I think you're dead on because here's the thing: is life is very, very short. And I'm realizing that at age 45 right now, as I'm looking back and I'm just trying to manifest what my life is going to look like. And what I've realized is that we're losing friends now at this age, and certainly not maybe even all friends, but individuals, our friends are losing their parents. I've lost both of my parents. And what do we want our life to look like? And we know that this is the only one life that we have to live here.
Yeah.
And are we going to abandon our true selves and be hindered by fear in order to make a real change? I commend you, Lisa, for making that choice and saying, you know what? I'm going to go do something different. I'm going to bet on me.
Yeah.
I'm going to make this work no matter what. And that's why you burn both bridges and you say, this is what we're going to do. This is my one life, and I'm not going to be struck down by any one person's dogma or be struck down in fear or can I. You went out and you went and trailblazed it, man. And that's what life's about. Otherwise, you're just...
burn the boats. Burn the
That's
boats.
it.
You can't go back. Yeah, a little bit. I think that... my hope for people is that they start to learn how to communicate, and they can, again, like achieve from like a healed place, so that they're not having to burn the boats, like so that you can still sail the boat. But it's so interesting that we in life as a society, we wait and we wait and we wait. And what I hear people say is, well, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. Your mom waited so long, it was that bad. And so then it really catapulted you into having to do something different. And you didn't have to, but that was your spirit. Like, you're like, yes, I'm going to go fix this. I'm going to help pay for rent. I'm going to figure it out. Some people, we watch and they get sunk by that.
Yeah.
And they
Like
don't
beats
go
them
out.
up.
Yes, it doesn't. So for some of us, it creates, okay, this gives me energy. And it may not be coming from the best place, but it was necessary at the time. That was necessary for survival, right? And so some people, they have that experience, but some people, they don't have that experience, and they actually, it goes the other direction and it beats you down, and then you feel like you don't have choice, and then you're stuck in something that's unhealthy, unhappy, and your life is not feeling like yours. And then you stay there for so long and so unhappy. It's not a good recipe. You get one life.
It becomes generational, perpetuated.
It is completely generational. And if you look at your family history and start asking some questions, you'll start to see patterns of, oh, this is what this person did, and this is what this person did, and now this is what this person did. It's like, oh, yeah, that's what we're doing. We're all doing it. Great. Like, once you crack that open, like, the world looks a whole lot different.
Boy, isn't that the truth?
Yeah, it does. It looks a whole lot different. That's so amazing. I think for those teachers or anybody, whether you're a teacher or whether you're just another human being who's mentoring or someone looks up to you, because somebody always looks up to somebody else, right? Like, I looked up to you like you were happy. You looked up to me like I was happy. We have such an effect on everybody else that it also brings to light, we need to pay really close attention to the words that we say and how we treat other people, and also the example that we set for other people in our environment. Be the kind of person that you want people to have at their table. Did I say that right? Like,
yeah, I think you did.
Right? Yeah, like, it's like, feels like a double negative in there somewhere. But like, you want to be invited to the table because you have a great presence about you, and you're not in the business of wasting time talking about things and being unkind. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that.
Well, we have an opportunity to individuals. We have an obligation, not an opportunity. Let's say obligation to the younger generation. I'll give you an example. I was taking my wife to Target on one of the 4 or 5 days a week that she's there, and I was sitting out in my truck, and all of a sudden I had a knock at the window of my truck, and I rolled down the window, and it was a kid that was probably about 18, 19 years old. And kind of looked a little shady. And he's like, I need to know what you do for a living that you can afford this truck.
I love that.
And I sat there for a second because, I've heard two things. One is I shouldn't drive a truck like this because it attracts too much attention. And then I've heard, it's too expensive of a truck to be driving around. And then I've heard all different kinds of things about this truck. Now, this truck is not me. It's just my truck. I bought what I liked and I can afford it. And it's my truck. It means I've had a lot of vehicles. But as I sat there and I told him what I did, and he told me his story. His story was he just got out of Idaho foster care when he was 18 years old. And when you're 18 and you time out in the state of Idaho, you're just out. So he's been in foster care for the last 10 years, and he's trying to figure out what he should be doing. And so his question is what did you do? And you know what? We have an absolute obligation to these kids and to others out there to tell them what we should do. Now, if I would have been just driving my daughter's Toyota Camry around that has 3 big dents in it, odds are he probably wouldn't have came and knocked on my door. So what I've done is I've sat down with him over the course of the last couple weeks as he's called me, because that was the other test, is like, we'll see if he follows up.
Yeah.
Well, I have a rule. If anybody wants a job from me, they got to follow up at least 3 different times before I'll even take their call. I'll blow them off 2 other times. And on the 3rd time, if they can follow up on the 3rd time, then I'll actually meet up with them. Because that's what life is. It's follow-up. It's just follow-up. So, we have an obligation to these individuals, to these children, to see exactly what it should look like. Now, that truck is not me, and I am not that truck. But I did tell him what I do on every single day, learning of that. And I learned what that means by working with a billionaire. One of my friends now is a multi-billionaire, and the way he works is a lot different than what we're seeing on TikTok, where we can just go out and just manifest it, and we can have all the free time in the world we want. And I've told him, the secret is to life. If you want this stuff, no one's going to hand it to you. And I'm telling you what, the rest of the savages out in the world are out there working hard, and they're not working from 8 to 5. These guys are working from 8 to 8. They're working from 8 to 9 p.m. They're constantly improving their goals, and they're improving their IQ. They're improving what they do from the very beginning. They're reading books and learning how to self-improve. And that's what we need to tell these kids these days, is that, yeah, you shouldn't go drop out of high school if you're just going to go sit home and play video games in your mother's basement.
Right.
And if you're looking to be the next influencer, that may not happen unless you follow a plan, and it may be very, very hard than going to school than what you're normally used to. But if you have the drive and you have the ability and you have the wherewithal, then you should go do it. If my kids told me right now they didn't because they didn't have a plan B. There are days where they didn't want to go to school, and for whatever reason, I was like, you don't have to go to school. Completely optional. I'm completely successful without it. I've learned to get my education from a lot of different sources, and now I sit down with CEOs for multi-billion-dollar corporations, lawyers and accountants and all that. You don't have to do the school route, but you better have a good plan B. Yeah. They never did come up with a good plan B, so plan A was school.
So plan A was it, huh?
Yeah. So, but that's fine. That was what I worked for, so they didn't have to make the do or die decisions like I had to.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I love how you say, completely makes sense. And I for a while there, I looked at myself even too as like, I didn't go to college. Maybe I need to go back in to get a degree. Would that make me, a better whatever? And
seems to be imposter syndrome.
Yeah, it is. But what I realized is I also learned, I read the books, I pay for the mentors. Like I've been in the masterminds for years. Like I am in the rooms with the people, right? I'm in with the Ed Miletts and the Brendon Burchards of the world, and the Tony Robbins, and so that I am learning, but I'm
Is that not education?
It is complete education, and we just don't look at it like that, right? Like the certifications that I go through, the things that I am learning, the psychotherapy that I'm training on, that's all education. It's just not traditional. And I think that what we need to be really careful of is there's not a way. there's your way.
Yeah. There's
Right.
a lot of
You
ways
did
to get this done.
there's so many ways to get it done. And it's what way is true to you, what's right for you. You got to trust yourself and you got to trust God. You got
Yeah.
those two pieces. And if you've got that, you can't go wrong. You're going to go do it your way. And everybody doesn't have to understand and everybody doesn't need to know. And it doesn't have to be the way that they could see because they have a limited vision, a limited view, and they don't know what's right for you, but you know what's right for you.
Yeah.
And I think you took that and you ran with it. You're like, well, here's what's right for me. Because by the way, 18 years old, I didn't know what I wanted to do back then. But you're like, I like financial planning. I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, to know that or to just gravitate toward that, it's a gift that you have inside of you. You gravitate toward that thing because you're gifted in that area, gifted with the numbers, right? And then you figured it out along the way. It's just, there's so many different ways to do it. And for people that are listening, it's just important, even no matter what age you're at, right? No matter what age you're at, there's always a way. We just have to take off the walls of the box, decide
Yeah.
there's not walls on the box anymore, listen to yourself, listen to God, and then take some action moving forward.
Well,
Then
and I
you
think
can
this,
get to that place.
I think to your point, Lisa, for example, right now at 3 universities here in the local area, they have my job as a degree. They've asked me to come and teach.
Yeah, isn't that curious?
Yeah, here we are 20 years later,
Yes.
and they say, these are really good jobs.
Yeah.
Why are we not asking? Why are we not creating a degree around that? And I wonder that myself too. I mean, our people make a lot of money, and
Yes.
people that sell things. And that was my advice to this young man: is like, you have got to figure out something that you can do to go sell something. You need to go work on a car lot, or you need to go sell something, and learn how to have these conversations where it's not a
Yes.
sales pitch, but a real value proposition of where you're creating
Yeah.
value for someone, and you will never go hungry. We
Yep.
haven't, at least.
Nope, I'm right there with you. I'm like, I can sell. I used to sell boats. I used
Yeah,
to flip boats. That's what I started doing.
in
I'm
Idaho,
like,
out of all places.
in Idaho, out of all places, as a stay-at-home mom, I was like, I need some money. I can see the value in this. Oh, this is undervalued. And I honed in that skill, which, by the way, came from being able to know what the price of all the groceries were in the grocery store, because that's something I paid attention to. It's just a skill that you develop
Sure.
if you pay attention to it and you feed it, right? Whatever you feed grows, and whatever you starve, dies. So it's really important that whatever your skill is and whatever your desire is, you feed it and you don't let other people tell you not to feed it. That's also very important.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly the truth. And I think that's hopefully something that your listeners get out of this, is that there is not one way, and
No.
you probably have more tools than what you necessarily think you do. But it's having to dig deep into that confidence level and trust yourself and your instincts.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a really good case.
Yeah. I love it. When did, and I've never asked you this, but I feel like it's a good idea to ask you. When did you start to find a relationship with God and being able to rely on Him?
You know, growing up without a family, without a real family or a father, or my mother was, had her issues as well. Um, you know, God's always been really important to me, 100% of the time. I don't know where I would be without. All this is me, but it's done through the power of Jesus Christ and my Savior. Um, He's allowed me to, some days I don't even feel worthy of it, Lisa, because I look at where my life was and where I'm at right now, and what I do on a day-to-day basis, and just think that I'm completely not worthy of it. So that's why I've got to keep giving back, to just show my Heavenly Father that how much I love Him. And sometimes I completely fail at that. But, I just knew that there was something more for me. I didn't know what it was. I just didn't know how I was going to get there. But, when you're 17, 18 years old, and that's what I tell my 20-year-old kids, is that it looks like a long time, but really life just moves in a blink. And had it not been for Jesus Christ and my Savior to really, I've been underestimated, underrated my entire life. The only individual that hasn't underrated me and underestimated me is probably my wife, and I know that my Savior has always had my back, and I'm so grateful for him because I'm a statistic. My father was an alcoholic and died of cirrhosis of the liver when I was 8 years old, and my mother passed away probably about 10 years ago, and growing up in the family that I grew up in, there's not a statistic that should show that shouldn't be in prison or dead by now. There's just not one, and that just doesn't happen by mistake. That is something Heavenly Father, God, whatever you want to call it, whatever you would call your God, something that higher power had something for me that wasn't in myself.
Yes, it has to be something outside of you. Yes. And we're not meant to do it by ourselves. I think that's the biggest thing that I've realized is, I struggled very heavily in my marriage for the last 8 years before I chose divorce to be, for health, to be healthy and to heal. And I just realized actually yesterday, that I stopped praying. Like I stopped really, and I actually would also say I didn't really develop the skill like I've developed it since I chose to get divorced, since I started making those harder choices for myself.
Yeah.
And so it's really shown me that you're not meant to do it alone, and there is something outside of you that's here to support you. We just have to be able to take down that wall and kind of remove the mask and be vulnerable to be able to let him in and let him help us. And I've always heard that, but I've never fully understood it. And to experience that, I would definitely encourage listeners to, however that works for you, to start to experience that so that you don't have to tow the rope by yourself. It's not what
Thank
it's meant
goodness.
to be. Thank goodness. And I think it's so amazing that, and meant to be, that when the things that you've learned, you're able to bless other people. I mean, that kid knocking on your truck that day was not by chance. I literally just had a kid up here to visit. I coached him for 2.5 hours yesterday, and I met him on the phone. He was trying to help me hook up my internet when I moved here, right? But again, 25 and trying to figure out what to do, and he's got some things, and so we coached for 2.5 hours and helped him out. When you live in alignment with you, and you keep your head up and you look around, you also can bless the people around you, which just perpetuates the goodness, which is what we need so much more of in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Boy, isn't
I
that the
love that you're
truth?
doing that. It is the truth.
Well,
Is the truth.
I really believe that we have an obligation, and that's why I spent so much time, setting up these charter schools, is because, you know, a charter school was not necessarily for the rich kids. Ours were for kids that had some struggles. Many of them had IEPs, and I just didn't want them to have the same issues that I had, and so that's why I spent a lot of time along with a lot of other good volunteers that painted this picture. And since that time, I mean, we've had thousands and thousands of graduates that have went through our system and are doing good things. And now I'm completely out of it. And now it's perpetuating itself without me. And that's what I want it to do forever.
So good. So
Yeah.
good. Tighter, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing your story today.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is
It's so good seeing
so
you.
fun I know it's so good to see you too, and have people get to meet you and hear your stories. And I mean, it's the silent heroes. I think you're your own superhero, but you're also a silent hero that people don't, we're not out and people don't see all the good things that you do and what you've experienced and what you've come from. They just maybe see your bright, shiny, beautiful truck, and they don't really understand, what you actually experienced
Yeah.
to even get to achieve that. I think so. It's really good for people to know it's not just magic, and it's not just
No.
handed to you, and you have choice. And I think that's bring it back to that. You said it's despite your circumstances, it's not your circumstances. You always have choice. That is the one thing that can never be taken away from you is choice. Take everything else away, but it doesn't matter. You still have choice. And you chose to do something amazing. And I think that's so cool.
You get
So
what
good.
you put up with, really. That's really the end all. I mean, that's a saying that I use, and you got to get rid of something old to get something new.
Yep.
Those are things that are really uncomfortable for people, but I genuinely believe that in some cases, in many cases, that's the answer.
Yep. Yeah. Because you don't have room. If you don't get rid of something, like you don't have room to receive if we just keep gathering. So I think what you're saying is like you have to give something up in order to receive something new. And what is it that we need to give up?
Yeah, yeah, true that. Well, thanks,
Awesome.
Lisa. I appreciate it. I'm so
Thank you
excited
so
for your
much.
journey and love following you, and thank you for the invitation.
Of course. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. And I hope the listeners got whatever nugget they were meant to get today. Get that. So thank you for sharing your journey to joy with us, Adam.
Thanks, Lisa. Have a great day.